Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's webcast, we're talking about how artificial intelligence will impact governance, risk, and compliance programs. To discuss that, I'm joined by Matt Hillary, Vice President of Security and Chief Information Security Officer at Drata. Matt, great to have you with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, James. Great to be here. I've learned a ton from the past interviews you've done with other professionals in the space. Feel really lucky to be here with you.
Great. All right. So I think we're at an era when companies are trying to get practical with their AI deployments. It's not just magic pixie dust anymore. They want to get in there, want to make sure something really works. And so part of that is heading off problems before they begin. So what are the specific problems with governance, risk, and compliance that AI can address?
You know, it's a great question to start with. As I think about the governance, risk, and compliance space, we have a number of manual processes that we've been operating for a number of years at this point. And, you know, with the very accessible AI capabilities that we have today, I can't think of a better industry where AI can really impact the day-to-day operations that these GRC team members face. We can go into a number of use cases where this might be the case, but having been born in this governance, risk, and compliance space myself, seeing the highly manual processes backed by spreadsheets, shared folders, screenshots, emails, whatever it may be to track a lot of the activities we have, it's so cumbersome, so painful. And it totally revolutionized the space at our organization, introducing a lot of automated platforms to support organizations. It is so cool to see what the next step is going to look like with AI backing all of these capabilities.
So really, you're saying in essence that those automated processes are supported by artificial intelligence?
Some are at this point. I think we're taking that next step. If we were to look back, they started highly manual. I think we've already moved into the highly automated space. When I think of automation, I think of very static parameters that are used to detect and alert and let you know when things are there. Right now, we have a lot of programmatic interfaces where we can pull data and run tests against those. Those tests, again, are very static and specific. Now, with AI, it's amazing to be able to have well-trained models that take it beyond that, to reduce a lot of the noise that we get, to help facilitate a lot of analysis and response on what you might see from a very educated human on what may come across the wire. And so it's the two words that I like to use related to AI infiltrating our world in a good way is it augments and accelerates all of our activities. And I think that's a very, very good way to describe it here in the GRC space.
All right. So companies they're getting involved with the GRC space. They're using AI. What's a headache that they would come across? I mean, what's difficult about this process in terms of what's a core challenge?
Oh, man. I'm not sure if you had a chance to use ChatGPT or similar capabilities yourself.
Yes.
It's very, very cool to be able to have these prompts where you can put questions in and get answers back. Now, when we think about, our organization is built on providing the facilitation for organizations to have trust built between those organizations. And in many ways, that's done by question and answer. And so when you think about these large language models where you're posing a question and getting an answer, we use that same capability in our own platform. And I'm seeing more and more of this in this space to help facilitate that conversation. Now, in our case, sometimes when we go buy a SaaS product from another organization, we have a number of questions. Sometimes I've seen organizations pose over 400 questions sometimes about their security, compliance, privacy, other availability practices. There's a lot that goes into that due diligence. I really appreciate this space because it's the way we truly build trust between humans and organizations by asking questions. And as transparent as we can be is where I think that's commensurate with the amount of trust that we can build with those organizations. And so what a great way of end usage of LLMs. Now, in Drata or other GRC tools, we actually house a ton of information about their security, compliance, risk, availability programs, whatever it may be. We are able to load that data behind a well-trained large language model and then populate many of these 400 plus questionnaires that would usually take a human sometimes days, if not, multiple hours, just to populate the question. We want to make sure the answers are right. We want to make sure the answers are understandable. So we'll take a lot of time answering those individually. And sometimes we have to go back and think, man, this is the same question we got asked by this other customer. What's the answer? How do we do it well there? Now with AI and a well-backed LLM, we're able to populate most of those many questions posed with solid, strong answers we are still in the phase, I think, in the industry where we have to go and validate the output. We're still not at that point where we can trust it wholesale and say, let's go ahead and send us to the customer to answer their questions. So we still have a human that goes through and verifies that, but that's been taken down to the minutes instead of the hours taken to write it, then review it, then send it. So really accelerating deal cycles, really emboldening people with knowledge. Now, there's a receiving end of these questions too, James. So you think about their ability to review the answers to 400 plus questions. Now in our platform, we built the ability to ingest all of the answers and really look for those call outs that might be concerning when you're evaluating whether or not you should purchase. So that's one of, we can keep going, but that's one of many that we've already accelerated deal cycles and trust between organizations.
So that's all right. That's a solution. I mean, and what else in terms of solution? I was wondering what would be a challenge. I guess the challenge I'm hearing you say is perhaps it's a lot to automate. It's a lot to streamline. What ultimately do you think is going to solve the problem if there is such a thing?
No, totally. When I think about AI, the backbone of AI, you've got infrastructure, you've got data, and then you've got a model that's well trained. And so applying those fundamental principles in the GRC space, we load the data. So that's the solution, is we load the data about the organization. The model is what we train to basically take that information and communicate it in such a way that the receiving organization can then make a decision on it. And so the problem there is, the amount of hours, the pain, the human effort that goes into it, the time spent to answer these questions, that's the problem. And that's, something sometimes organizations, especially at the end of the quarter, the last few days and answering these questionnaires can really compact. The amount of hours a human spends on that is notable and material. So that's the problem. The solution is accelerating that to the point where we can use humans where humans are used best, which is reviewing these outputs and being able to send that off instead of having to craft the raw underlying answer. So that's the solution here that exists.
Yeah, I would think with governance and compliance, AI can play a key role, but it feels to this day that humans are still probably playing the larger role and will be for some time. Agree, disagree?
I 100% agree. And the way I usually communicate this is we still need the humans to herd the bots. And I think that's the case with automation. Mm-hmm. When a problem is presented to me or my peers, we have two choices. We can throw a number of, capable humans at the problem, or we can throw both with a significant augmentation of automation or tools or capabilities. Now in that tool chest, we have that powerful AI capability to then further augment, but the humans are still going to need to be there to direct, to validate, to, use, to hone, to train, all of these. Our creative nature, our ability to see things at the bigger, larger perspective, I don't think that's ever going to be replaceable in a material way in our foreseeable future. So 100% agree with you that we will still need very capable and amazing humans to monitor the capabilities that AI is providing, but also with the purpose of, continue to accelerate our ability to do more and more individually and collectively.
That makes perfect sense, definitely. Well, yeah, I'd like to look at the future of artificial intelligence at GRC. I think it's a key area because companies want to be getting ready now for the future. So if you look ahead, say, 1 to 3 years or so, what do you see for the future for artificial intelligence and GRC?
Oh, man. I think the future is bright. I think we're only at the beginning what the capabilities exist to us now. I was talking with some peers last night, thinking of different ways AI can continue to augment various areas of the security space, not even just the DRC space, but security, the privacy space, the trust space, our day-to-day. I think many of us are still at the beginning of thinking through how we reroute our own brains. Instead of going straight to a search engine to ask for answers, we're starting to go straight to a very capable LLM. And so with that, I think the future is bright. I think this first year is going to be the year of where does AI make the most sense? And they almost are looking at a point solution approach. When I look at GRC, I was actually summarizing, I actually used AI to do this, like give me a simple bulleted list of all the simple responsibilities that, are supporting a GRC, that the GRC team member does. Some of these may go into 20 to 30 different items. Now, as a CISO, I probably have 100 different items. I think if there's a list out there to say, what is a CISO responsible for? It is overwhelming. And I think about all these individual items that are there. So this first year is identifying some of the most painful aspects there where we can then augment with a capable large language model or other AI-backed capability to accelerate. Security questionnaire automation is one of literally a number of other items that we can look at. I was looking at the list here. I was like, one that comes to mind is we have a number of new control frameworks that come out and continue to iterate. And so a human usually has to go read that and say, what are the deltas between today and what this new standard wants us to do? No better solution than using capable LLM to summarize that, tell you where your gaps are, make a list to go through that, even suggest ways to augment and fix those things is kind of what we're seeing now. So again, a number of those things. So I think the first year is finding which are the most painful areas to then apply these capabilities. I think in 3 years' time, we're going to have more and more what I think what large organizations are coming out with now, an entire assistant to really support us. When you think about an assistant, supporting us in our day-to-day activities, they need to know everything about us. They need to know everything about our tools and our state to really provide that suggestions, that level of suggestion we need to further there. So when I think about 3 years' time, I think we're going to have a full-on capable assistant level capability with not just the point solutions, but a holistic approach to helping accelerate all of our day-to-day activities beyond just this space. So a really, really bright and excited future there for AI supporting us.
That is fascinating, Matt. That's really neat. The idea of agentic AI basically doing GRC, seems like it would be a natural direction for the industry. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise today. It was great. I learned a lot. And please come back and talk with us again sometime, Matt.
Of course, James. Thanks for having me. I always love what you do. Thanks for what you're doing. Please continue so we can all learn together. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you. All right.